The Big 12 has a huge issue right now. Like one glaring thing that I've looked at over the course of the last 4 weeks and thought, all right, it could get better. It could get better. And I think it's a deeper rooted issue that goes further than what the Big 12 is in just these 4 weeks. And that is the lack of a dog. DAWG. And I don't mean like a Heisman contender. I don't mean like hey, this defense is otherworldly. They're the top of college football, or this playmaker is on ESPN every night. I mean, one football program that brings this word, consistency. The SEC has a couple. The ACC has a few. Hell, the Pac-12's got a few. I mean, Utah's won the conference back-to-back. The Big 12, especially moving into expansion era Big 12, has one massive issue that will be this conference's kryptonite going into the new era of this league, the 16-team era of this league. That is the lack of consistency from any given program. Who's the big dog of the Big 12? Who's that guy, pal? And you can say to yourself, this is good. This creates parity. This gives you a good indicator of the depth of the league. And depth is great. And to me, it's good for viewership, right? To me, I want to see a good Kansas team play a good West Virginia team. I think that's good football. However, it's not how the rest of the country works. It's not how the brain works for the average American. They don't think, 5-0 Kansas, 4-1 West Virginia. I want to watch that game. That's hypothetical, by the way. Maybe they are playing in a couple weeks. They're not saying, I want to watch that game. They're going to pass on that. Instead, if they see, wow, here's a Kansas State team that's played for a college football playoff, played for a national championship, played in the playoff for 2 out of 3 years, playing against a TCU team who just went to the college football playoff 2 years in a row, especially in this is talking expanded era, then America turns its eyes to you. Like here are 2 top 10 teams squaring off. Here's a team that's done it year in and year out. Here's a BYU or a UCF who've come in and made waves early on in the Big 12. Here's a Cincinnati that proved that his college football playoff appearance was not just a fluke. Big 12 doesn't have that. The ACC has a Clemson that does it, every other year. They go into the playoff. The last 10 years, it's been Clemson. The SEC, multiple. Georgia, Alabama, LSU. Hell, the Pac-12. They have sucked at getting to the playoff, but you can't argue that there's not a brand of the Big 12 that's as big as USC. I know they're leaving, the whole conference is shutting off. But even then, even now, right? You look at some of the viewership numbers, you're like, oh, dang. They do have some big dogs. Oregon, they draw some viewers. And, of course, the Big Ten with Ohio State and Michigan. Penn State even now. Notre Dame, the floater. Who is the Big 12's Ohio State? Georgia, Alabama. USC even. Clemson. Florida State. Who is that for the Big 12? That's the glaring issue right now. Is that there's parity, but parity doesn't always sell. Depth doesn't always sell. The MAC. Hell, the MAC's a great conference. I love watching the MAC for that reason. Parity. There is no consistency in that league. It makes for really quality football. But I'm a maniac. I am alone in that camp. I like watching Tuesday night action. Most of America does not. They want to watch a big dog fight. The Big 12 is missing that. That's a legitimate issue right now. You might say, okay, well, can Utah be that? Sure. That right now, they're the only team that makes a case. Here's the problem that's diluted Utah. This is true, and you can get mad. The Pac-12 has not been a big name conference, right? Because we don't talk nationally about Utah a lot. One of the reasons why is BYU does its best to overshadow Utah. I mean, look, I mentioned multiple times, there's a whole religion that circles around BYU. I mean, this is the flagship university of one of the fastest growing religions in the entire world. That's tough to compete with in your own state. Utah is put second in a lot of respects nationally because of the depth, the absolute ferocity of BYU fans. So not saying Utah can't be that team, but Utah's won 2 straight Pac-12 championships, been to a couple Rose Bowls, and we're still not talking about them nationally. Colorado, Deion Sanders, everybody's talking about Deion Sanders. He just got killed by Oregon. We're talking about Deion Sanders a little bit less. Maybe he rolls in the Big 12. He's a big show. People watch it. But at some point, we're going to get 6 months into the Deion Sanders experience, and I'm going to look at you, and you're going to look at me, and we're going to go, you tired of this? Yeah, me too. It's not as fun as it was the first couple weeks. The trash talk's kind of weird. They're 7-5. That could happen. That could very well happen. So then who's the show? Who's the team? Who in the Big 12? That's the big glaring issue right now. Because some teams have had great seasons, like Baylor, 12 wins. Now they suck. TCU has fired a coach within the last 3 years. Texas Tech was supposed to be good. When's the last time Texas Tech had a really marquee good season? 15 years. Kansas, I guess, is starting to be good. Kansas State was talking about firing Chris Kleiman. Fans wanted him gone a couple of years ago. Not one team has stepped up and said, hey, we're going to consistently win 10 games like an Alabama, like an LSU, like a Georgia. The Big 12 is at a disadvantage here because nobody will step up and consistently be good. That's a problem. Monitor it. Just want to put it on your radar. I need somebody to be good. Because any given week, anybody can beat anybody. And while that's fun for March Madness, it doesn't sell in football. You need somebody who is the team to watch on a national scale. Big 12 does not have it yet. That could very well bite you. Here on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.